If you don't invest, you're screwed. Because inflation is going to leave you far worse off 1 year from today, 5 years from today, 10 years from today than you are today.
Is there an easy way to get rich quick?
If I mess this up, it's on me. If I make something of it, it's on me.
I think two very important things is understanding the product. Second thing is discipline.
One book alone that I guarantee you has made me a millionaire, it will make me multiple millions for the rest of my life, is
Tell me one stock which will make me rich.
ticker symbol you want?
The one in which you have invested.
The ticker symbol is
Hello and welcome to Century Conversations. My name is Yogesh. Today we are joined by someone very special, and I want to say that this is one of the most trusted voice of finance in Dubai, Mr. Kartik Iyer, who also goes by the name of Financial Wingman. Kartik, welcome to the podcast.
okay. Thank you so much. Thanks for having me. Yeah, it's a pleasure. Looking forward to our conversation.
Yeah, this is going to be very interesting, guys, because first of all, Kartik, you call yourself the Financial Wingman. What inspired the title? क्यों लोगों को जरूरत पड़ी है कि एक फाइनेंशियल विंगमैन होना चाहिए? विंगमैन की जरूरत है मालूम है,
हाँ।
फाइनेंशियल विंगमैन क्यों चाहिए?
जिस रीजन से विंगमैन की जरूरत है उसी रीजन से फाइनेंशियल विंगमैन की जरूरत है. आई थिंक द नेम originated from the very fact that we all need some help
Yeah.
To do things that are in our best interest. A wingman, as you know, most people might know, pushes you to achieve something better in some area of your life. So I think Financial Wingman was me trying to help people to overcome the same struggles that I had faced in the early parts of my financial career or my wealth building career. And I think I realized that it was actually very simple. It just required a little bit of push or a little bit of guidance or someone just pushing you outside your comfort zone to do something that you want to do and you want to achieve, but you don't have, you can't do it just by yourself. So I think, and Financial Wingman is also something that I don't envision as something that is me. The message that I want to take out to the world is that everybody can be a financial wingman for someone.
Oh, wow.
So that's the goal through the channel and through what I'm trying to do is to ensure that everybody can become a financial wingman to even one person in their lives. I think, we'll all do much better financially in our lives if we had that one person.
It's a wonderful thing. I think what you're doing is a wonderful job. I've seen your Instagram channel and you talk about real estate, you talk about investing early. Talking about yourself, you said that back in the days, the title did inspire from the struggle which you did. And I think somewhere on down the line, all of us have faced that while growing up, investment का इतना आइडिया नहीं था कि जब पेरेंट्स से बात करते थे तो वो फिक्स डिपॉजिट्स की बात करते थे. There was no crypto, there was no idea. आपको क्या लगता है? Do you also think there is some sort of psychological barrier amongst kids to start investing early? Like is there lack of knowledge या lack of time या पैसे नहीं हैं या उनको लगता है कि बहुत ज़्यादा पैसा चाहिए ज़्यादा पैसा बनाने के लिए?
So honestly, it's a bit of everything you just mentioned. हम लोग जिस सदी में बड़े हुए हैं, we've seen our parents invest in FDs because I remember when I was a kid, when I used to go for my summer holidays in India, there used to be a 15% return on FDs, right? Maybe I was in grade 7, maybe 25 years ago. Inflation was not so much of a problem. Our parents or the boomers, they could afford homes. The cost of a house in the boomer generation, the 60s, 70s, 80s, was 2.5 times a person's annual income. Today, it's almost 10 times a person's annual income. So times have changed drastically. So today, it requires a lot more money to live the same kind of lifestyle that people lived, our parents lived. So that is a big shift. So it's difficult to fault our parents. I used to always think, why did my parents never teach me about investing? Why did they not? If they earned all their lives, why didn't they invest? Today, I would have been more extremely rich. When I run my numbers, like यार अगर उन लोगों ने किया होता तो आज इतनी मेहनत करने की जरूरत नहीं पड़ती.
S&P में डाल देते,
S&P में डाल देते वो टाइम पे. उस टाइम पे उतनी जरूरत नहीं थी because life was a lot more affordable. लोग शादी करके 4, 5, 6 बच्चे करके everyone went to school, everyone lived a decent life. Today, people are not getting married because of money. People are not having kids because of money. Times have changed tremendously. The amount of money we make versus how much that money is actually worth has changed completely in the last 20, 25 years. I think that That's number one, which no one is to fault, right? Whose fault is it? Who can you blame? You can't blame anyone. So eventually, I think the responsibility now falls on us. I have to take ownership for my own life. If I mess this up, it's on me. If I make something of it, it's on me. I have no one to blame, right? And I think taking accountability of our own lives and our own situations is absolutely critical. Otherwise, life will go by and we'll struggle the whole way.
See, you're right. Things have changed. Like what you rightly said, that maybe our parents wouldn't talk much about investment because कभी ज़रूरत ही नहीं पड़ी इतनी. उनके लिए fixed deposits were enough. या गाँव के बगल में ज़मीन है, ज़मीन की वैल्यू बढ़ जाएगी. That was enough for them कि कभी शादी करानी होगी बच्चों की तो ज़मीन बेच देंगे, पैसा आ जाएगा and it will be enough.
बिल्कुल.
I think now, especially living here in Dubai, peer pressure भी बहुत है. I think somewhere we have to match with the lifestyle which our neighbors or our peers have created. That pressure, along with, क्योंकि इतना pressure है, and again, there is so much information. This is what I wanted to ask. What you're doing on Instagram, it's amazing. Some of the videos which I've seen, and the kind of knowledge you're giving to new investors and to the learners. How do people like us differentiate कैसे करें? जो आप बोल रहे हो वो भी सही है. Today I was watching a video on YouTube. The person is saying that diversify करने की कोई ज़रूरत ही नहीं है. जो diversifying as an investor means that you don't know what to do.
Right.
अगर आपका confidence एक asset class में तो आपको कभी diversify करने की ज़रूरत ही नहीं पड़ेगी. Now I'm looking that.
Right.
Versus I'm watching somebody who's telling me that you should always diversify investments. सही कौन है? आप सही हो, वो सही है, and how do we differentiate the noise versus the real knowledge?
So that's a tough one, right? There is no right or wrong. So what that person is sharing has merit, in the sense, let's say you invest only in the S&P 500, you don't diversify.
Yes.
But the S&P 500 as an asset class is already diversified, right? It's got 500 largest companies in the United States. So it depends. I don't know the exact context in which this
Let's
person
say
is.
you stick to equities only,
Right.
right? While other people would say कि नहीं आप equities करो, आप bonds भी करो, आप real estate भी करो, आप cryptos में भी करो.
Correct. So there are a lot of thumb rules, right, for how to play this. I think eventually the goal is to understand that we need to invest, right? Question is, why should I invest? If I can scare, also I think if I can scare people enough to tell them that if you don't invest, you're screwed. Because inflation is going to leave you far worse off 1 year from today, 5 years from today, 10 years from today than you are today. So if I can scare you into getting you to believe that, boss, if I don't invest, gaye kaam se. Whatever effort I've put in my career, in my school, my parents, will all be worth nothing if I don't invest. Now it's okay if you want to pick 60% equities, 40% bonds, or 40% equities, 20% real estate, or you want to buy gold. It's okay, right? Every asset class will cater to a different person. If someone, investing is, there's no straight,
There's no
black,
formula
there's
to
no
it.
formula, there's no black and white, and it's also very dependent on what kind of person you are. If you are an aggressive person by nature, right, maybe you want to have completely invested in equities. If you're a very reserved, conservative person by nature, you can have a high bond portfolio. If you can have, there is investment products and a portfolio, you will build it based on your personality. So there is no one size fits all in the world of investing. And I think it's very important to realize that it's not that, oh, I heard someone say something and hence I have to do what that person says. It's a journey of discovery, but you have to realize that I have to start investing. I have to take it seriously. And I often say this, that an excellent engineer, right, will not make as much money as an excellent investor. So you can be an excellent engineer, an excellent doctor, an excellent lawyer, an excellent accountant. But if you're not good at investing, then all of that might not be, someone who's good at investing, but an average person in his job can make far more money in the rest of his life than an excellent doctor or an excellent lawyer.
Investing is more about growing, man.
Absolutely. Yeah. So you can, it's not about how much you make, it's about how much you save and how much you invest eventually.
That's a wonderful point. We need to take our time, discover learn about investing, right? Basically, हमको समझना है कि like there are a lot of people talking a lot of things. If I start picking one person, I may be on the wrong because that worked for them. Maybe it doesn't work for me.
Absolutely.
But then patience की कमी है ना. जैसे आज UAE के जितने investors हैं, I'm talking about the young kids right there.
Right.
Sometimes when I ask kids, do you invest? They say no. I said, do you trade in cryptos? They say yes.
Hmm.
Now the problem is there is no patience and everybody wants quick money. 21 दिन में पैसा डबल चाहिए.
बिल्कुल.
Now, what is your advice to it? First of all, I know the answer to it, लेकिन मैं पूछूंगा.
नहीं, I don't think you know my answer. I'll tell you my answer.
No, not your answer, but I want to know, uh, is there an easy way to get rich quick in times like today? And why I'm asking this is because times have changed. You yourself told me that every 100 years the monetary system changes. Surely the investment trend changes. जो हमारे parents के time पे था वो अब नहीं है. Do you think now there are better opportunities to become rich quick जो हम लोग के पेरेंट्स को अगर 20 साल लग जाते हैं क्या हम लोग को 2 साल में हम लोग कर सकते हैं?
So coming back to the question you asked, जिन लोग ये कर रहे हैं, people who are trying to make money quick, I think they should do it. Right? जितनी जल्दी हो सके जिंदगी में ये सब बेवकूफियां कर लो. Because because earlier in life you have less money to lose. Right? So lose it. It's okay if that's something that excites you. Today we have to realize we as human beings we are driven by dopamine. We are chasing dopamine like rats chase sugar, right? In those experiments that used to be done. So we are chasing dopamine from everywhere. We get zero dopamine from buying a boring ETF and investing in it for 35, 40 years, right? We get zero dopamine. Problem is we are chasing dopamine from the same place we are chasing financial returns. And that's the biggest problem.
It's very dangerous.
Very dangerous because where's the best dopamine you can get as far as money is concerned? At the race course or in the casino,
Yes.
right?
Kick मिलता है.
हाँ,
Yeah.
so that dopamine, that rush you get, if you're trying to do that same rush, you're going to get the same result. That means you're treating your money, your hard-earned money, like a casino, or you're taking your hard-earned money and going to a casino. If that's the thought process, so it's important to understand the thought process. That get your dopamine from somewhere else, build your financial empire somewhere else. Because if you mix the two, the casino will make all the money eventually.
I think this is happening a lot right now.
Yeah.
Because I hear so many times that due to leveraged products, you put $1,000, you take a big trade, you make $10,000 a night.
Yeah.
And then that person starts handling other people's money and doing exactly the same thing what worked out for them.
Yeah.
Maybe 3-4 trades, made a lot of money, and now he's an established trader and talking about how to invest. Other people listening to it, falling for that. What you said, investment, do they need to be boring enough?
So as far as leverage is concerned, I mean, I'm telling you all this purely out of I've made a lot of mistakes, right? I've made some absolute blunders. I've lost 1 year's worth of money in one trade because of all of these things. And I've done all kinds of stupid things. And I've also heard of a lot of people everyone now that given what I do, a lot of people come and share their sob stories with me about how they put money, made 10x, then took that money, put it again and lost everything and more and taken loans. Oh, the scary horror story.
Yeah.
So I've come to a very simple conclusion that only if you're using borrowed money, if you're using leverage, the only place where, according to me, you should be taking leverage is if you're buying a property. Otherwise, it's a request. I tell people, please do not. It's okay, right? It's the one place. Like I'm a very aggressive investor in general.
Yes.
I will follow my gut. I will do the research. I will do whatever, and I'll put my money where my mouth is. But when it comes to leverage, the problem is you don't get to sleep well at night. On the day I was getting married, I had a very large leveraged position, which went completely wrong. So can you imagine? I'm just telling you my plight 5 years ago, where I was getting married, supposedly the happiest day of my life, and I'm like, shit. I know my portfolio is tanking. I can see it losing thousands of dollars. And I took a decision. That was the day I took a decision. I said it's a new start of life, and I said never again will I get myself into a position where I need to worry about.
Yeah.
Why? The idea is that what do I truly want? I want to be happy. I want to sleep well at night. I want to spend time with my family. I want to travel. I want to live my life. Money is only a tool to do all of that. right? But now if I'm deriving all my joy from the tool, I lose sight of what I need the tool for. It's like you don't enjoy the hammer. I don't need the hammer. I need a beautiful house or I need a beautiful frame on the wall. But if I'm deriving all my joy out of the hammer, then I'm doing something wrong.
Correct.
And I think that's something that I constantly remind myself, because today I'm at a position where I have a lot more to lose. So when initially, if you have a few $1,000 or $10,000,
Yeah.
it's okay. You lose it, you can recover. But when once you've done it right over a long period of time, you have a lot more to lose. So that's why I said, if you want to make all these mistakes, do it early in life, get it out of your system so that you can learn. Because we all say learn from others' mistakes.
Yeah.
Nonsense. It doesn't work. Unfortunately, we have to learn from our own mistakes.
It's an individual journey.
We have to go through it.
I've known many traders who have been very disciplined also. I think मुझे लगता है कि problem is the majority of the people treats leverage like a, a sword which cuts them. But if it used right,
Correct.
and if there is proper risk management, मुझे लगता है कि again same thing. I would want to come back to what you said.
Right.
Why not take time and learn about this if there is a right way of doing this thing? And I think that's a wonderful thing.
Absolutely. No, it's a double-edged sword,
Yeah.
right? You have to, it's just that you
Manage
need
it right. Yes.
to manage it right, and it's a sword, right? So you don't try and cut bread with a sword. So you have to know what you're doing, and if you don't know what you're doing, I mean, there are so many products today. We know 1:10, 1:100. As long as you're, doing that, and you have to recognize that, am I doing this purely for the thrill of it,
Exactly.
or am I building my financial empire based on this?
Yes.
So if you're doing it for play money, absolutely enjoy, have fun. It's your money, you should have fun. But that should be, let's say, 5% at best of your portfolio. 95%, keep it boring, keep it simple. Play the game for the long term, because the best thing about being young, if you're talking about young, is that the young people have time on their hands.
Yeah.
And that is the greatest tool when if you run the numbers, when numbers start compounding, the greatest tool we have is time, not an investment product. That's why it's okay. 7%, 8%, 9%, 10% doesn't matter. Over 40 years, you'll be extremely wealthy.
As long as you are investing early, it makes sense.
Absolutely.
So coming, I think two very important things is understanding the product. Second thing is discipline.
Yeah.
Talking about discipline, of course, there's dollar cost averaging, there is SIPs, which a lot of us are doing.
Right.
Coming back towards what is happening right now, S&P, as you rightly said, it's one of the most diversified index.
Right.
Abhi bhi S&P, which is at its highest, do you still see people doing SIPs? लोगों को ऐसा नहीं लग रहा है कि already, because a lot of people have started talking about the AI bubble. I'm
Right.
sure you must have heard about it and read it. Do you think it's the right thing even now to continue with the SIPs, S&P 500, especially now when people are talking about that a probable crash is going to come? Or is there something else what we can do?
So obviously, I don't have a crystal ball, but what I do know is that 10 years from today, there's a good chance we'll be higher than where we are today. Will corrections happen? Will recessions happen? Will bubbles burst? Absolutely. All of that will happen. But my philosophy again is very simple. Automate your investments and just don't ever look at it. Because you don't want to, as I said, I want to go and enjoy time with my family. I don't know if a recession will happen right now. Will it happen next month? Will it happen 5 months later? And this is also a mistake, right? I thought, oh my God, S&P is at 6,000. It's at 6,000. Oh my God, maybe I'll not invest next few months. And then once it corrects a little bit, then I'll put all the months' money together. We've gone from 6,000 to 6,800. I missed this year, right? And it's the first time I'm admitting it anyway. But this year I missed 4 months of my SIP because I stopped it. I said, my God, now it's too high. I will be smart.
So that is the mental setup. It happens when markets are all-time high.
Absolutely.
लोग SIPs भी discontinue करते हैं कि ठीक है निकालो and sit on cash.
So if I had to make it very simple, never stop your SIP.
Never stop.
Maybe if you have extra cash, maybe you want to hold on to it for now, but do not stop your monthly SIP ever. Let that keep going.
I think it's a very important message because ये हम लोगों ने देखा है काफी बार whenever markets are high, of course, people try to book profits, especially when nowadays people are talking about stocks like Nvidia, Palantir, Tesla being all-time high, going to $1 trillion of market cap. What do you think about AI as a sector? See, it's a very important theme, right? a lot of videos have been made on whether it's a bubble or not. They're talking about how all these companies like Nvidia and Oracle and AMD, they're kind of circulating money within each other, and their valuations are
Vendor
going
fire.
higher, and
Yeah.
crash bhi ho sakta hai, nahi bhi ho sakta hai. At the same time, their reports show explosive growth.
Right.
Um, but I see investors are still pouring money in.
Right.
Uh, Last time we had a panel discussion where some very veteran from the industries came in and said that even if there is a AI bubble, I still feel that we can make money in that bubble. ये veteran का mindset है.
Hmm.
So I'm assuming that every investor is thinking the same way कि
Hmm.
AI ऊपर जा रहा है, बस AI में blindly पैसा डालो.
So you're right. It is scary in the sense that, yes, what you spoke about, the circular financing and vendor financing and everything that touches OpenAI turns to gold. And, all of this is happening. But I think if we look at it, we went from the, agricultural age to the industrial age to the information age. Now we're in the age of AI, right? We are in that phase where the world has changed. uh, how much information we've had in the last 2000 years now we have generated every day, right?
Exactly.
There's new information. So we're living in a time where AI is definitely going to increase productivity. It is going to change the way we live our lives. uh, Almost, I think 75-80% of our GDP growth, of US GDP growth, is coming from AI. Nvidia is a $5 trillion company.
Yeah.
So it's important for us to realize that we are in the midst of a seismic shift, right? The world has changed. We're never going back to the way we lived. We're never going back to a world without AI. The question now remains is all the productivity gains that are going to come from AI in across industries, right? From commute, which we're seeing, to healthcare, to to every aspect of our life, to the robots that we're going to have in our house in a few years from now, which I guarantee will happen. We will no longer have to do laundry, and all of it will be driven by AI. Even though a robot is a hardware, but the software is going to be AI. Uh, everything is going to be AI, right? So it's very different in the way I look at it is very different from what happened in the dot-com bubble, where anything with dot-com would just shoot up. Today, anything with AI is just shooting up. But today, everything with AI is increasing productivity. They have actual businesses. They have actual earnings. So I'm giving you both sides of the story that it is scary what's happening. Most people will get FOMO and think that, oh my God, Nvidia has gone from, it was a $1 trillion company just 3 weeks ago or whatever. It was like, kal to 1 trillion tha, aaj 5 trillion ho gaya. It's great. It's bigger than India as a country, right? One company. So how do you sort of wrap your head around it? And it's I'm not saying it's easy, but it's very difficult for people to digest the fact that they're going to get left behind.
FOMO.
FOMO, exactly. And with the amount of liquidity in the markets today, with the amount of money that governments are printing, where is this money going to go? It's like a Nvidia, and the AI plays like a magnet for all this money, which is why you're seeing these. How do you value companies today anymore, right? Do valuations make sense? I don't know. But if you look at P's today, they're for some of these companies, they're off the charts. So
Because the idea of the question is, because tech is so much in talk about, and people are inclined towards doing it, one of the reasons कि सिर्फ हम ही नहीं कर रहे हैं, बाकी सब कर रहे हैं. If even today, if I were to listen to the experts, they would never say anything ill about Nvidia or any other tech companies. But इसके साथ साथ there is one more asset class, which earlier was not an asset class, but I don't know what to call it. Do you call cryptocurrency as an alternative asset class? Does it fit somewhere in your portfolio now, knowing you for a few minutes?
yeah, no, of course. Anyone who's been following my journey, they all know that I'm, cryptocurrency is one thing, but Bitcoin especially is something that I have spent a lot of time researching, studying, and slowly, I started off I was a FOMO investor in Bitcoin.
Okay.
Initially, I had a 1-2% allocation, and then I studied a little bit and I increased it to 5, and then I kept increasing my.
I ask how much is your current?
No, you can't. I'm just kidding.
Okay, give me just a rough idea. Whether it is double digit.
It's definitely
It's
double digit as part of my liquid net worth.
Okay.
Bitcoin today is definitely in a double digit part of my liquid net worth.
Okay.
So
Point noted.
Bitcoin is Bitcoin is something which again, I've spent a lot of time studying it, researching it. I've read all the books, and the reason I did that was because for a very long time, I've had a feeling that something is not right with our global monetary system, right? And I didn't know what the problem was, or I didn't know what the solution was. And when obviously I was very late to the party, I'll also let you know that I was very late to the Bitcoin party. But once I started studying it, I realized that Bitcoin possibly is a solution to the problems that we are facing in the world today, especially from a monetary point of view. As we discussed, we were talking about it offline, that every 100 years there is a monetary reset. Till 1913, the pound was the reserve currency of the world. Today, the dollar is the reserve currency of the world. We hear terms like de-dollarization and, countries moving away from the dollar. You can see what's happening with BRICS. Gold, you can see what's happened with gold in the recent past, and that's purely a function of loss of confidence in the dollar. Now, this narrative has been going on for quite some time without a real solution. I mean, while gold has been around for millennia and has been treated as a monetary asset or a form of money for a very long time, it comes with its drawbacks, right? It's hard to do transactions. Today, if I want to buy a cup of coffee, it's tough. Today, if I want to buy a property, it's tough. Tomorrow, if I want to send money to my cousin in America, it's tough to do it through gold. So that is one aspect of it, but also purely from the fact that today governments can print currencies at the push of a button without any checks and balances in place, purely as, I don't know, I don't want to get into trouble for saying anything, but a lot of political agenda drives how much money gets printed, because no government is going to get elected if they tell the people that we're not going to give you more money, or we're not going to spend more money on the economy. We're not going to improve infrastructure. We're not going to hand over checks to you like we've just seen Donald Trump doing. It's a very big part of their political agenda. And that means that, I don't know if before COVID, before 2020, the amount of money in circulation almost 3x'd after COVID. So imagine today, you had $100, you were working, you were putting in an honest day's work, you're getting paid $100. Suddenly, the value of your $100 has become one third because they printed 3x the amount of money.
It's like drugs injecting into the economy without even, it basically shows good numbers, shows strength. But the problem, which always has been, I think, since 2008 after quantitative easing started,
Yes.
now I think every economy is in a habit of each time something goes wrong, we can just print currency.
Absolutely.
Stock markets go up and people feel that that is something which is the way to go ahead with.
Absolutely.
And what you were saying earlier, that the monetary system was connected with the gold reserves until 1970, and once that went off, I think US was pushed into decades of inflation.
Absolutely.
But I think every economy just got used to this idea that each time there's something goes wrong, we can just print more currency and get out of that.
And the problem is there's no rehab center. And there's no government that's going to say, low to this, let cut spending. And I mean, Elon Musk tried. Yeah. And if the smartest man in the world couldn't realize it's not possible, I don't think there's any hope. So we're going to keep seeing this injection of, of the substances into the economy, which means more printing, more money, bigger governments, and more inflation going forward.
So I think that is one part where, so that's how you see cryptocurrencies, right? A major change in the monetary system.
Yeah. So cryptocurrency. So again, let's differentiate between cryptocurrency. Cryptocurrency is a technology, right?
Blockchain.
Blockchain, cryptocurrency, and there's going to be widespread utilizations of that technology.
Yeah.
Right. And today we're seeing it everywhere. Today, if you open your title deed of your property in Dubai, there is a QR code, and you can check. It's all on the blockchain.
Yes.
Or RERA has its own blockchain where all your real estate transactions are listed. So you can go and check any single transaction that's happened, which is why today all that data is public information. In every aspect of the financial world today, be it stable coins, which you're seeing, which the US passing the Genius Act, Clarity Act, you'll see even people who are even banks that were completely against I'm not going to take names, but banks that were completely against the entire space of stable coins.
I know what
They're all
yeah.
exactly. They're all and have adopted it and are becoming the people who are taking it forward. Companies like Walmart want to have their own stable coin. So as a technology, stable coins is a form of cryptocurrency, right? So that's going to have a huge role to play going forward. And the US government is very happy about it because all stable coins now have to be backed by US treasuries. So on one hand, they're losing people to buy US treasuries, like countries like Japan and China who are dumping US treasuries, but now they've found another buyer. So, a country or a government that was completely against something just a few years ago now has said, hey, these guys are actually good for us. So again, it's part of kicking that same can down the road even more.
My biggest fear has always been that before US had a new president, um, the cryptocurrency was not pushed as much as it was. There was a lot of resilience. SEC was very strict with the companies which were promoting them. That narratives have changed completely.
And how it's changed, right? 1 year ago, it was a complete, with Gary Gensler as the SEC chair, it was a complete different story to where we are today.
Now it has changed.
Completely.
Don't you fear that after, if there's a major shift in the political structure of the US, it's going to change again?
So it's possible, but I believe, I think that's true for everything, right? That you can't hold back an idea whose time has come. So whether it's this government or the next government or the government after that, eventually a solution has to come about. And now, whether it is Bitcoin, whether it is cryptocurrencies, whether it is something else, I don't know. But and is it possible that the next government completely undoes everything that Donald Trump and his government is doing? It's possible.
Yeah.
But you can't stop an idea whose time has come, and eventually there will have to be a solution for all the problems that the current system has created. And to me personally, it seems like Bitcoin is a good solution. Whether it lasts one more term, one more cycle, one more generation, is this the next 100 years? Time will tell.
That's that. And I think that is why diversification is really important, because you don't want to be completely away from this.
Absolutely.
What if it becomes the next dollar? You never know.
Yeah.
You don't want to be the one who missed out.
Yeah.
Like maybe in 2023, it was 30,000, then it went to 120,000.
Yeah.
So the fact is opportunity being missed, right? Even if you had your doubts, again, everything goes back to the same point, what you said earlier, that you need to give enough time to understand
Absolutely.
a product and not just, see or hear things and blindly work on it.
Correct.
Which, of course, there are so many things I want to talk about, but I know that we have very, very
Sure.
limited time. How an average person understands these things, because fundamental analysis is not that easy for an average person who has no idea. It's easy for him to just look at a technical chart,
Yeah.
see a support, and take a trade.
I mean, I think the average person should not be looking at fundamental analysis. An average person should not be looking at technical analysis. You have no business to look at charts, right? The average person. And when I say the average person, I mean someone who's
Normal education.
yeah,
like
normal,
not a certified
a proper, an educated person
Yeah.
going today. Let's talk about the general people.
Yeah.
They've studied hard. They've got a good job. They're taking care of their family. They do not. There is no prerequisite that to become wealthy, you need to know fundamental analysis or technical analysis. You can be extremely wealthy without knowing anything about, and you don't need to do any analysis, right? That is the first point. Now you can take an extra interest. Maybe you want to, do some fundamental analysis because you enjoy it. You want to look at some charts because you enjoy it. You want to start finding ways to make some extra income. But you have to realize that's a separate aspect. Your basics, basically building your portfolio has to be what we discussed earlier, which is investing every single month, taking 10, 15, 20% of your salary, putting it in a ETF or an index
What do you
fund.
think the right percentage would be of the savings to put it?
So I would say start with wherever you can, which is uncomfortable. If 5% is comfortable, start with 10.
Okay.
If
That's a
10%,
very good thing.
if 10% is comfortable, start with 15.
Wow.
Most people come and tell me, Kartik, we've got nothing left at the end of the month.
Yeah.
Right? So I say start with $100. Right? There is nobody on the planet who cannot, or nobody living in Dubai who cannot put away $100. I'll help you.
Yeah.
I'll help you. Show me your credit card statements. I'll save you $100 every month right now. Right? So there's no excuse. There's no excuse to not start. and then keep going. I mean, there's nothing like I've invested too much, right? Can you save too much? Yes. But can you invest too much? Never, because if you invested too much, it's okay. If you want to spend for something, you can spend from there.
Yeah.
But I think after you've built your emergency fund, which is maybe 3 to 6 months of your expenses,
Yeah.
everything else needs to go towards your investment. And I think that's it's as simple as that. Everything you do above and beyond that is only out of passion or out of pursuing a separate source of income. Otherwise, then you have, come on, I mean, think about it. A normal person who goes to work, comes back home, he's got kids, he's got to take care of house chores, he's got to take the family out on the weekend. You want to spend some time, you want to chill, you want to do whatever. Who's got the time to do fundamental analysis on one company, and what if that company goes bankrupt?
Yeah.
So you have no business doing it, right? There's absolutely no need to do any of that for a regular person who has nothing to do with the financial markets. If you want to become extremely wealthy, you don't need fundamental analysis or technical analysis. Let's just
I'm going to make this as a preview of the promo of the podcast.
Yeah, I mean, I think I think people over complicate the simplest, and as human beings we tend to want something that's complicated. We think making a lot of money and becoming wealthy, right, has to be complicated. No, it does not. It does not.
It's inbuilt inside Indian mentality है कि अगर हार्ड वर्क नहीं किया
मेहनत
तो
नहीं
पैसा
किया
मिलेगा
पैसा नहीं मिलेगा, बिल्कुल. और दूसरी तरफ पे we want फटाफट जल्दी रिटर्न बड़ा चाहिए. So it works both ways, right? You have to so think exactly what we just discussed. We want get rich quick also, and we want something complicated also, right? And it's neither of them. We can have something that's super simple, super. So one is getting wealthy. Getting wealthy is super easy. Very hard to do, but it's super easy.
Getting wealthy is super easy.
Super easy, but very hard to do. So getting wealthy is simple,
Yeah.
but it's
But not
very hard
easy.
to do.
Yeah.
It's not easy.
See, it's simple but not easy.
Yeah.
Tell me one stock which will make me rich. If you have something.
The ticker symbol you want? You want the ticker of the stock?
The one in which you have invested.
The ticker symbol is YOU.
That's
You invest in yourself, that will give you the highest return.
Yeah, it's a wonderful thing to say. Kartik, before you leave, is there any books which you have read which have changed your life? Just for the listeners, if there are young listeners looking into it.
So I can tell you one book alone that I guarantee you has made me a millionaire, and it will keep making me a millionaire it will make me multiple millions for the rest of my life, is Rich Dad Poor Dad.
Rich Dad Poor Dad. It's a wonderful book.
I used to hear, back in the day when I used to listen to YouTube videos and stuff, I used to think there were people would be like, this one book made me a millionaire. I'm like, kya bakwas kar raha hai? And there is nothing from that book that I picked up and I went and I implemented it. There's nothing. Not one thing that I took from the book that I went and implemented. Okay. But I've read that book 4 times in my life.
And what was the most thoughtful thing which we
exactly what I'm saying, that there is no one thing. Like people say, don't work for money, let your money work for you. Understand the difference between assets and liabilities. वो सब कहने के लिए अच्छा है, but कहने में सब ज्ञान लगता है. But reading that book, what it shifted here, there is no price. There is no price you can put to that.
Mindset.
The mindset shift that is required, because reading that book is like planting the seed of $1 million. Our role is to plant the seed, because if you want apples in life and you start planting orange seeds, you will only get orange trees. They're like, I'm watering the soil, I've put fertile soil, I'm working hard, I'm doing everything, but I'm getting oranges. I thought wanted apples. So reading Rich Dad Poor Dad twice or thrice, it takes 3 hours to read, right? And most 99% of people I've met said, I've heard of the name, but I've not read it. मेरे कैबिनेट में पड़ी है, मेरे घर पे पड़ा है. पढ़ ले यार. Because that book is the most phenomenal book that I have ever read. And I'm sure I'll read it again. But even today, when I go and I talk to people or whatever, that's the book I will always give them.
That's very thoughtful, and that's very good for you to that you sharing this thing.
Someday I'll write my own book and then I'll give them my book perhaps. But until then, वो
सरप्राइज अभी तक लिखी क्यों नहीं है?
यार टाइम मिलेगा तो लिख लेंगे यार, वो टाइम टाइम चाहिए सब चीज़ के लिए।
But I'm sure that next time when we are meeting, in instead of the yellow book, along with the yellow book, you have your own book.
That's awesome. I hope we'll do it someday.
And Karthik, before you leave, just one thing, because now UAE is getting flooded with finfluencers. नया चालू हुआ है. Um, as a finfluencer yourself, you would call yourself influencer?
Yeah, I mean, I guess I need a license. I'm waiting for my influencer license. Once I have it, then we'll call myself that.
But
I'm a let's say I'm a financial educator or
okay,
whatever.
perfect.
Yeah.
So because there are so many people, of course, aap kar rahe ho, and you have a great followership as well. What do you think is the right or or some sort of responsibility which you have, simplifying concepts for people,
Right.
but at the same time जो आप बोलते हो लोग सुनते हैं, they follow.
Sure.
Do you think this market now is so much flooded? And again, the question I asked in the beginning, of course, ki how do you differentiate from noise from actual knowledge, and you talked about it. For the influencers who are looking at this, what kind of responsibilities or accountability or process do you think of influencers should have before they actually put out content outside?
See, it's a huge responsibility, right? In the sense that if someone is listening to what you say, it's an opportunity for me to get a message across. And I feel that yes, there is a lot of noise out there, but it's important as an individual. It's important to follow a lot of people who talk about the subject of money, because it's important when you're scrolling on your feed on Instagram, and if you're only watching cat videos and dog videos, you might as well have someone who gives you some nugget which could inspire you to take some action. Right. So I think that's the responsibility. Are there people who are spreading the wrong message? Possibly, right? But I think it's that everyone, I think we have to trust our own agency to decipher who's saying the right thing and who's saying the wrong thing. So I think that I give people enough credit to make that judgment for themselves. But even if someone says something you don't agree with, he's added some value to your life, because he's given you an opportunity to think about what perhaps is not right according to you. So I think it works both ways. So I think everyone who's creating content, it's not easy to create content. So if someone's putting themselves out there, I would like to believe that people are generally socially responsible, right? That's my default state.
It's a very positive mindset.
Yeah, I mean
It's very good.
that's my yeah. It's I think nobody starts out saying कि यार मैं उसके लिए कुछ बुरा करूँगा. I don't think people start out that way. Do incentives change along the way? Absolutely. I mean, especially when you do what I do, I know how many people reach out to me to try and promote hundreds of products and services. And I wish if I had started collecting money from everyone, I would, I'd be a very rich man today. But unfortunately, a lot of them don't align with my value system, or don't align with the message that I want to, pass on. But as I said, at different points, incentives change, and we need to just be I mean, for other people who are creating content, I just think it's important to look within just a little bit to ensure that our responsibility towards the people who are watching is being met, and we don't deviate from that responsibility.
And it's a so Karthik, as the year is now coming to an end, 2025 almost ended. It was a very dramatic year. I think we saw a lot of things, from crypto rise to gold rise and a fall, and stocks going all time high. Uh, Two things I want to ask. One of the first thing, right now, US is going through a shutdown. Of course, now the deal has happened, and probably the shutdown will be over. But it has happened before. Each year, US reaches to a higher debt ceiling. The government shutdown happens, markets fall, and the shutdown is removed, markets go up. Uh, what is your perspective on the current idea when the US shutdown happened? Do you really feel that there will be a point when the debt ceiling will be reached, and uh, the shutdown will finally never be removed? US would go bankrupt, the bond prices will fall.
So if I understand correctly, the US debt is one issue, right? But that is not the direct reason for the shutdown. The US debt today is what, $37 trillion.
Yeah.
And the debt ceiling has been raised multiple times. So it's
Yeah.
not like US hits their debt ceiling and they raise the debt ceiling.
Yes.
They hit the debt ceiling, they raise the debt ceiling. They're basically, what they've been doing for the last, since 2008, is they've been kicking the can down the road. And the debt, the way I look at it, is only going to keep increasing, because currently the amount of money that US is bringing in, almost 20% to 25% of that amount is going only in servicing that interest on that debt, right? So the debt is almost paying almost 4 or 5% on $37 trillion, which is a lot of money to be paying out of the taxpayer money. So what are they going to have to do? They're going to have to print more money, create more debt to fund the debt,
which is basically running in circles.
Absolutely, it's like, and it's going to keep. That's what kicking the can down the road is, and that's what they've been doing for the longest time. So, in my opinion, they don't have a choice unless they wake up one day and say, "Guys, I'm sorry." They tell the world, "Put your hands up. We can't pay anymore," which means US will default.
Yes.
Now, I don't think that's going to happen, right? I don't think the most powerful country in the world is going to be able to do that, and it's going to end. If that happens, then none of this matters. Everything is going to be, it's going to be a catastrophe. What are the other options they have is to keep printing more and more money, keep adding to this debt, and what they're trying to do now is to grow their way out of this debt. So as long as you're constantly growing, so they say debt as a percentage of GDP. So your debt is going to keep growing, you have no choice. But can you grow fast enough so that your debt to GDP ratio comes down? Which is what the current US government wants to do. They want to bring it down to 3% from 6.5%, 7%.
Yeah.
So and that's where the whole AI play comes in, right? And they're banking heavily on AI. So much money is going into AI. The governments are so much supporting it so much because they know that AI perhaps is their one shot of reducing the gap between debt and GDP.
Do you think putting tariffs on the goods is a way to start generating more revenue? Because eventually the tariff which is being paid, it's paid by the US residents.
Exactly, the US resident, exactly, right? So it's not that those other governments are paying the money. It's the US taxpayer who's paying more money.
Yeah.
And then yesterday, over the weekend, we saw that Donald Trump is issuing that as tax rebates back to the people.
Yeah.
So again, that's a very long conversation. I believe in free markets. Anything that goes against free markets, I believe, is not sustainable. And an eye for an eye, the whole world is blind, right? So every time, fiddling with monetary policy, fiddling with fiscal policy, has led us to all these troubles and problems. Eventually, free market forces. This is my belief, right? And I'm nobody to have this opinion, but I just feel like you try to do something unnaturally, you're messing around with the fundamental.
Yeah.
And I've seen, through if you study Keynesian economics and stuff like that, and I understand where everyone's coming from. We were taught Keynesian economics in college, right? Even till today, it's taught in colleges. It's taught in universities. There are textbooks written on Keynesian economics. But I today believe that, free market economics is the way to go. So the more you meddle, the more government gets involved, the bigger the government gets. And also, if you realize, right, that the government is perhaps the most inefficient organization in the world because they don't need to show profits. They don't need to. So governments in general are huge, behemoth, unprofitable, uh, inefficient organizations.
They run in deficits.
They run in deficits, right? Can an organization run in deficit? Can a family run in deficit? No, they've got to cut spending. They've got to be frugal. They've got to say, can I clip coupons somewhere? Can I get a discount somewhere? We're efficient in our companies who are running for profits are very efficient, right? Because they have to show profits to the shareholders. They can't print money. The governments, they by design are inefficient, or they're not designed for efficiency.
Yeah.
So the problems are going to last until something breaks, or until something really changes. And things have been broken for a long time, right? In 1971, when US said we are going off the gold standard, what did they do? That was a default. But the problem is every country in the world held those defaulted assets, which is the dollars. And they had no choice but to say, okay, fine, no problem, we'll trust your word. But technically, that paper is worth nothing. So how they will default this time and not call it a default is up to be seen.
Yeah. So I think this was one of the things which happened, and I think another very important thing going 2026 is the IPO market. This is another thing which has been talked a lot about, because before pandemic there was a raise of IPOs, and I think even during the pandemic we saw a lot of IPOs happening, especially tech when it was rising. This year also a lot of US companies did the IPO debut. 2026, a lot of companies in India. In fact, if we talk a bit about UAE here, there have been a lot of IPOs which have happened this year, last year, and I'm sure in the coming year also there is going to be a lot of IPOs. How do you see the IPO market in UAE? And do you think UAE is now opening up to the foreign investors,
Yeah,
becoming
so
more stronger?
absolutely. So UAE, it's a very new market, right? It's a baby in the financial world, and hats off to everything and all the efforts that they've put in. If you look at the returns that they've generated in the last few years, has been phenomenal, right? Comparable with any of the bigger markets, and even better than some of the developed markets in the world. So UAE has done a phenomenal job at creating value for investors and shareholders. Uh, what essentially is happening is that you've seen a mostly uh, public companies, government entities have divested some of their stake, right? We've seen a slightly different story when private companies have tried to enter the markets, and that will also change. You will see the future Talabats of the world who are, there's very few tech plays in this part of the world. So you will see those companies eventually, once there's more depth and more liquidity and more volumes in these markets, you will see a lot more shareholder value getting created from these markets. It's early days, right? We can see what's happening in Dubai right now. It's the center of the world.
Yes.
And it's only a matter of time before I feel that these markets will develop into being competitive with their
Because it
global.
is very undervalued at this point of time. I think it has a lot of scope to grow further and even go higher.
So undervalued is a function of how much liquidity and how much interest there is, or how much capital does it have the capacity to attract. That's what decides valuations today. So undervalued in the sense that yes, there are a lot of businesses that are doing well. Some of the local businesses and the government-run entities are phenomenal businesses. And the day that there is more liquidity that comes into these markets and there's more volumes traded, you will see the valuations will keep up with.
That's great. Perfect. And I think there are a lot more opportunities in this market, whether it is real estate or IPOs. And I think UAE as an economy itself has developed so much. Even the stock market returns, as you said rightly, in last few years, they have actually been very better as compared to the world. So I think a lot of investors are now being encouraged to invest in UAE. It's a wonderful end, Kartik. Thank you so much for coming onto this podcast. I think few very important things were said, and I just love the idea that how you have just simplified everything. Because the moment we talk about investments, background mein, the first thing which comes at they're subject to market risk. Please read the offer document carefully before you invest. And I think somewhere a normal person who is not a CFA, who's not certified, probably thinks that this is not my cup of tea. But now I'm sure if they're listening to you, they've understood that you need to understand everything which is said around you. You don't have to believe everything, but at the same time, it's not that difficult.
Yeah.
Uh, you don't have to read charts or technical indicators or fundamental analysis. It's very basic. It's very simple. Just try to save more, invest, and continue to grow.
Yep.
Once again, thank you so much, Kartik, for coming on
Thank
the
you.
podcast.
My pleasure.
And I meant it when I said the next time when we are meeting, I'm sure next to the yellow book, I want to see your book right there.
तेरे मुंह में घी शक्कर मेरे भाई.
Definitely.
God bless.
Thank you so much, Kartik.